Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Chainlink and the native token Link. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's go for 100,000 subscribers. Give the video a thumbs up and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Now, every so often, I like to do a systematic update on Chainlink, where I go through a lot of the different types of analysis. I told you guys I would show you guys all the custom charts that we talk about a couple days ago. I wanted to give it a couple more days, watch the price continue to evolve. Here we are. So the first chart, as you guys probably know by this point, shows the valuation of Link in US dollars versus time. And it's color coded by the risk metric, which is what I use to evaluate my entries and exits from various cryptocurrency assets. Now, historically, as we can see, if it's in the blue region, it's historically a good time to be buying. In the red, historically a good time to be selling. If you're just a long-term Link bull and you have no intention on selling anytime soon, something like this could be useful just to know when to maybe scale back buys potentially. It's not financial advice. All this is data analysis on historical data, price, volatility. That's all it is. It's not my opinion on the market. It is basically the data. It's what the data says. And so this is what helped us in the summer identify that it was getting very overheated. And it might seem obvious in hindsight. It always seems obvious in hindsight. But we were saying, when it was up here at around $20 back in the summer, things were very overheated and we needed to cool off. And so we have in fact cooled off. If we take the price, if we take the risk out and plot it on the secondary y-axis, you can see that in fact we did come back down to less than 0.5 risk. Remember, there's two things that I like to see, or I need to see, before I would ever consider DCAing into Chainlink. The first one is I want the Link USD risk to be less than 0.5, and we saw that several times over the last few months. The other thing I personally like to see is the Link Bitcoin risk less than 0.65, and we went well below that. So this one shows the Link USD risk, and you can see there have been 3 major peaks so far. And the general idea of this type of metric is to essentially treat every single time as more or less the same, not this time is different mentality. Of course, there can always be future bull runs where they might outperform prior ones, but I find, personally speaking, that if you just assume that everything's always the same, more or less, you might not always necessarily squeeze out the most profit, but at least it does help ensure you are taking profits off the table in the event of a bull run. So the risk on Link right now, you can see it's starting to head back up. Now, more importantly is the Link Bitcoin risk metric, and we showed you guys this over the last few weeks. And I said, we're not going to leave you guys hanging when Link is bearish. It's easy for people to make a YouTube channel and come on and scream at you about Chainlink when the price is going up. But what's more important to me is when someone is providing analysis when it's in these periods, because as we've said before, bull markets can make you money, but bear markets can make you rich. And when Link is acting bearish, it's those times when you're coming in, when it's, when everyone's fearful, when there's so much unnecessary drama, going on Twitter and other places. This is what we said before. Just tune out the noise, tune out that stuff, because it's largely irrelevant, and just focus on the data. Now, again, this is not financial advice. This is just my own analysis of the markets. And so we came on here a few weeks ago, and basically from the depths of despair for the Link Bitcoin valuation, and we said, well, the last time that we were at this level was over here in the summer of 2018. And we had a pretty nice bounce, and we moved up for a while. And it looks like so far, we've had a bounce of the Link Bitcoin risk. Now, we say this all the time, and I say it jokingly, but I'm also somewhat serious about in a metaphorical sense. Do not schedule your Forbes interview just yet. And why do I say that? Well, yes, Link has rallied back to $23. However, we know that if Bitcoin were to have a massive capitulation, it could go straight back down. Okay, there's always risk involved. It could go straight back down. So what we want to see is either a slow Bitcoin bleed, as you guys have been seeing. We've seen it bleed from 42K. So that's fine usually, or it just goes sideways. Yeah, and I think if this happens for Bitcoin, then Link should hope. I mean, there's a decent chance it will continue to perform well. Now, back in the summer, this risk metric actually helped us identically time the top, more or less, against Bitcoin, and it worked out amazingly well. The Link Bitcoin risk has dropped so much since then. You can see that theoretically there's a lot more room to go, theoretically speaking. Now that doesn't mean it will, of course. We don't claim anything like that. We're just saying based on historical volatility and historical movements, then theoretically there is a universe that exists where we could come up to the upper risk band again. And if it did, then it might yet again tell us, okay, it's getting pretty risky at this point. Now, something else to consider is that these moves don't necessarily have to happen overnight. If you look back in the summer of 2018, we bottomed at around this level, and we had a couple peaks on the way to a much larger peak of the Link Bitcoin valuation, which is the white line. So you can see it bottomed here, it went up to this peak, then back down, then back up, back down, and then had this final peak before cooling off for a little while and then trending higher to a new peak. Okay, so we've seen this before. Just because we're bottoming now does not mean that next month we're going to see it come up to the top of this band. It could take months. For instance, the last time it was here was in the summer of 2018. It did not make it to the top of the band for actually a year. A year. It took it a year to get to the top of the band. Now, are we living in different times? Yes. That we're living in a Bitcoin bull market, and one of the things we've said all along is that we don't know how Link will behave in a Bitcoin bull market. We know that it can outperform it significantly during a Bitcoin bear market and a Bitcoin accumulation phase, but how it will perform against Bitcoin in a bull market was essentially anyone's guess. Okay, and so far we saw it perform very well early on from April or May all the way through the summer. It went up like 10x or something. It came back down, and now it's right back up higher USD levels. So we have some results then, and we can start to use that to analyze, a continuation of a bull market or even future bull markets. We'll have more data to suggest how Link might behave in the event of a bull market. And so you can see these clear three peaks of the Link Bitcoin risk. I will take this a moment to say, if you want access to the risk metric, the quantitative value of the risk, remember, into the cryptoverse.com, we have the premium list. You'll get access to the risk metrics for a lot of different cryptocurrencies, their valuations against other cryptos, like Link against Bitcoin, Link against Ethereum, and Link against USD, as well as a lot of other cryptos. You also get access to weekly reports, weekly videos, the risk dashboard, the Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, trading view indicators, a whole lot of stuff. Make sure you guys check it out into thecryptoverse.com. Now, it was because of this Link USD risk metric and the Link Bitcoin risk metric that I was able to systematically sell most of my Link by the time we got up to $18.50 this past summer and start accumulating again between $7 and $8 and all the way up to just under $12 a few weeks ago. And so the benefit of this is that even if Link is at $23, and the last time I bought it was around $12. So it's essentially already up 2x. Now, the nice thing about that is, for me, at this point, even if Link were to correct to, say, $16 or $12, it's not really that big of a deal because my last buy was at $12. So the whole point of this channel is not chasing pumps, but coming into the market before the pump happens, right? Wait for the pump to come to you. If you chase it, you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage, because if you were one of the many people who were accumulating Link just systematically, or you were just doing it through the premium list, right? Whatever it was, if you're one of these people, then you're already up 2x from, say, $12 almost, and you can stomach short-term moves to the downside. Where people get in trouble is when they FOMO into a pump, and then there's a short-term correction, and then they just get scared, they market sell it, and then it then goes back up, and then they just get into this dangerous game of they buy it when it's pumping at a very risky time to buy it, and then they sell it anytime it has a slight correction. But the nice thing about coming in when the risk is low is that now it's so easy to stomach corrections. It's so easy to deal with this because you came in when the risk was much lower. So if you missed out on this opportunity to get it at a lower risk level, remember there will be times in the future where we will have similar type scenarios, but you just have to stick to the plan and not get sucked into the fear that likes to overcome the market during these times. Now, this is something that I think needs updating. We're not updating the fit, we're just talking about it. This is the price of the valuation of Link Bitcoin. And historically, we identified what we considered to be non-bubble data. And we fit an exponential fit through it. And I said out of all the fits, this one's probably the most dubious because it's not a logarithmic fit where it assumes, increasing valuation moves or larger percent increases early on, whereas it diminishes over time. It assumes that it goes up exponentially. And we said that we know it won't last forever. If there's one thing we know about a fit like this, it simply will not last forever. And the reason we know that is because, well, to maintain exponential growth against Bitcoin forever is somewhat absurd, right? I mean, it's somewhat absurd. If you look at it on a log scale, you can see how far down we've dipped, okay? And could we refit this? Well, sure, we could, but what might be more interesting is just to leave it the way it is and see if it gets back on track. And if it doesn't, and if it starts to trail off, and maybe it still sees a nice return, but it trails off, then maybe we can look at fitting this to a logarithmic function that'll help show us a more reasonable behavior going forward. But so far, we really don't have a lot of data to know. And one perspective is to consider this a bubble. And you might be like, well, what does that mean? Well, I mean, in the same way that these are bubbles where we come above the line, maybe this is you could consider this a Bitcoin bubble where Bitcoin is just going so really high up and we're bubbling, but the bubble is going below the line. And this is why I say it's good to hold Link and Bitcoin for me, because again, it improves your risk adjusted returns, it improves your Sharpe ratio, and again, it improves your Sortino ratio, even if you want to only punish negative volatility. So maybe this is a bubble and we will get back on track. That's a very optimistic view, a very bullish view, and we're certainly not saying that's going to happen, but it's one perspective to have. I think it's good to keep an open mind. We'll continue to follow this. If it becomes apparent that at some point we are completely off this trend line, then we'll toss it aside and say, okay, it worked for a while, it worked for about a year, it helped us identify these accumulation phases and these subsequent bubbles that came, and then ultimately maybe we trail off and go on to a new trend. But we have to stay on top of it and see what ultimately transpires. This one is a log scale, so you can see we've come considerably down below it. But remember, this is days since inception, and it's on a log scale. So this is 10 days, 100 days, 1,000 days. So it's going to take a long time just to go from, say, here to here, which is 1,000 days, all the way up to 2,000 days since inception. This shows the valuation of Link, and it color codes it based on whether Bitcoin is above its 20-week moving average or below its 20-week moving average. And as we've shown before, historically, after Link has a pump, Bitcoin then drops below the 20-week moving average, and then Link trails off for a while. It more or less just moves sideways for the foreseeable future until Bitcoin gets back above its 20-week moving average. This is the first time where Bitcoin has stayed above its 20-week moving average, and it looks like maybe we're just going to have a continuation of the move that we already have. It's too early to say how much higher we'll go. Hopefully a lot higher, but we'll see. But you can see, historically speaking, when Bitcoin is above its 20-week moving average, Link, business as usual. Here's the Link Bitcoin valuation when Bitcoin's above its 20-week moving average. It tends to just move up, right? There's not like a systematic thing to it. I mean, obviously, when Bitcoin is above it, Link does tend to have really good moves against Bitcoin. This one has gone to the downside a bit more than usual. Now, this chart is really interesting because it shows the ROI as measured from days since inception of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Link. In fact, what's really impressive to me is that Link has put in these returns during a bear market and an accumulation phase, and at theoretically the beginning of a bull market. Of course, we don't know how long the bull market will last, but be that as it may, look at this run. It did this during a bear market, and as measured since days since inception, it's ahead of Ethereum at the time when Ethereum was this many days out from inception. And Ethereum had gone through an entire bull market cycle of Bitcoin, and by that point was in a bear market. So this for Link is one of the most bullish charts I've ever seen for a cryptocurrency. Okay, I mean, it just, yeah, there's corrections. Yes, people get fearful after buying the top, and it comes back down because the people that buy the top are generally the loudest and complain the most when it comes back down. I'm sorry if the truth hurts, but that's just the way it is. I'm sure I've been one of those people many years ago. When you come into the market for the first time, you get excited about where things are going. You buy the top. The smart money sells you their bags. Things dump down. You capitulate, and then ultimately you watch it go back up, and then you're bitter about it because you realize what just happened. And it's okay to go through that once, but don't let it happen again. Okay? Sometimes it's kind of like it's kind of like your ticket into crypto to get your attention into crypto. It's like a bubble has to occur, and then you come in at the worst possible time, and your portfolio might get entirely wrecked. But from what I've seen, those people that just stick with it ultimately end up eventually winning at the expense of new people that come in later. So to some degree, it's a transfer of wealth. I just hope people learn to be the smart money rather than the dumb money. Here, the same chart is on a log scale. So I just think it's interesting sometimes to look at log scales. You can see that, I mean, obviously since inception, or say since 2017, 2018, Link has outperformed Bitcoin. And it's easy to say that, Link is head and shoulders above Bitcoin in terms of ROI. But we have to be fair, right? There's not really much of anything out there that will come to in terms of crypto, or hardly anything in the world, I imagine, that'll come to yielding an ROI quite as impressive as Bitcoin's. Yes, Link has been outperforming Bitcoin since Link has been around, but if you look at Bitcoin's ROI early on, hardly anything touches it, and it's continued to just move up and up and up. So we have to pay Bitcoin our respects. We can't compare Bitcoin's ROI today we can't say the 3-year ROI of Bitcoin because it's less than the 3-year ROI of Link, that Bitcoin is a worse investment. No, it's all about risk-adjusted returns. I think there's room in a portfolio for both, not just one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to transition over to TradingView. And let's go ahead and pull up the Link chart. So right now it's at $23. So it's doing pretty well. And if we take a look at the Link Bitcoin chart, this is our exponential fit that we were talking about. I had previously added, a few months ago, a couple more bands here. I thought about adding bands all the way up for visual appeal so that we could see, each layer that it goes up, but I decided not to do that, at least for the time being. But I mean, if we come back up here, we're about to welcome Link back home if it's able to get back up into the band and continue on. So we'll want to keep a close eye on that. If you look at the Link Ethereum valuation, let's go look at the Link Ethereum valuation. Actually, it's right here. You can see that we're we're pretty far below our bull market support for Link Ether. However, we have trended up a lot recently. So over the last week or so, Link has gained about 45% against Ethereum. And against Bitcoin over the last, let's just look at the last week or so. So here's about the last week. It's up around a modest 70% or so. So hopefully this video has been informative. If you guys like the content and want to see more analysis on Chainlink, make sure you subscribe. Let's get to 100,000 subscribers. Give the video a thumbs up if you guys like it. Also, leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts on the analysis, what you guys like, what you want to see more of. And if you are one of those people that have been accumulating Link, congratulations. You are seeing a pretty good ROI so far. We're at $23 and hopefully pushing higher. If you guys like the content, subscribe. Turn on your alerts. Remember to check out intothecryptoverse.com for access to the premium content There's also the lifetime deal. If monthly subscriptions are not your thing, we do have a lifetime deal. That will be in the description below, and the price for that will be going up significantly in February. So check out the lifetime deal if you guys want access to that. Otherwise, you can check out the monthly subscription at intothecryptoverse.com. That'll wrap it up for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.